Welcome to Ship It, a podcast about ops, infrastructure, and change for the better. In our 6th Kaizen, we talk with Jared about all the things that we cleaned up after migrating changelog.com from managed Kubernetes to fly.io. We deleted the K8s cluster and moved wildcard cert management to Fastly and all our vanity domain certs to Fly. We also migrated the Docker engine that our GitHub Actions is using. PR416 has all the details. We did a few other things in preparation for our secrets plan. Thank you Michael Glassman, James Haar, Adrian Mester, Omri Gabay, and Owen Valentine for kicking it off in our Slack Ship It channel. My favorite improvement, however, is the new shipit.show domain. As for our favorite CDN, it remains Fastly, which continues to serve all our requests from all their edges with minimal latency. Check out what they can do for you at fastly.com.
This episode is brought to you by our friends at SourceGraph. They recently launched a new feature called Code Insights. Now you can track what really matters to you and your team in your code base, transform your code into a queryable database to create customizable visual dashboards in seconds. Here's how engineering teams are using Code Insights. They can track migrations, adoption, and deprecation across the code base. They can detect and track versions of languages or packages. They can ensure the removal of security vulnerabilities like Log4j. They can understand code by team, track code smells and health, and visualize configurations and services. Here's what the engineering manager at Prezi has to say about this new feature. Quote, "As we've grown, so has a need to better track and communicate our progress and our goals across the engineering team and the broader company. With Code Insights, our data and migration tracking is accurate across our entire code base, and our engineers and our managers can shift out of manual spreadsheets and spend more time working on code." End quote. The next step is to see how other teams are using this awesome feature. Head to about.sourcegraph.com/code-insights. This link will be in the show notes. Again, about.sourcegraph.com/code-insights.
We are going to ship in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome everyone to Kaizen 6. It's slightly different this time, and it's for you to decide whether it's better or worse in this format.
or how much better.
Or how much better, exactly. Just me and Jared this time. We're keeping it cozy, even cozier than last time, Lars.
Ooh.
So Lars told us feedback in our Slack channel that episode 50 was a very cozy Kaizen. Nice conversation, collapsing into laughter, and lots of assorted tech talk. So
yes.
I'm thinking more laughter this time because we don't have Serious Adam, so we can go crazy.
Right.
There's no one to stop
crazy.
us.
He'll never try to bring us back to center.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, if we go off the rails, we will not recover from that. So yeah, cozier. We're getting cozier, Lars, and we blame you for going cozier because you gave us the idea.
What's cozy mean exactly? Because I'm thinking like fireplace, bearskin rug, coffee.
Cozy. I think I didn't ask him, but I think he may have been referring to that swordfish seed.
that was, yeah.
I don't know. Lars, can you clarify for us, please, in the comments below? What do you mean by cozy? But I think just like
getting
closer, not as close
intimate.
As swordfish. Yeah, exactly.
But not that intimate. Okay.
Right. So I want to start. I could hardly wait. Like, it's been a week since we had this, but I've been mentioning to everyone my favorite, biggest improvement. Okay? I'm really, really excited about this.
Yes.
So we have our own vanity domain.
And that domain is?
Shipit.show.
Shipit.show.
I'll repeat that. Shipit.show. Okay? So
pretty cool, right?
Someone, especially like non-English speakers, they thought I said show. I didn't say that. Okay.
We did not say that. This was your concern from day one.
Show.
Wasn't
it is.
Yeah. Have we had any complaints about that particular aspect of the show so far? This is probably nobody across nobody's mind until just now, and then they're like, "Oh man,
oh damn it!" Okay,
now they're going to hear that every time you say it.
So shipit.show. And
Yes.
if you do shipit.show/60, that will be this
That's
episode.
this episode.
And that's how
Boom.
nice is that?
So cool. So let's talk about vanity domains writ large for a minute, because like short URLs, right? Like they used to be cool. Remember tinyurl.com? Like going way back, there was a time when URL size mattered and shorter was better.
Yes.
And for us, it's still true, but for most people, nobody cares anymore about that, right? I think it was probably because of Twitter. It used to be that your long URL inside of Twitter counted each character in URL counted towards your character count. And we had 140 back then. What do we have? Yeah, we had 140 characters.
Yeah, then they went to 160, but you're right. The links were not expanding. They weren't like shortened. So that was not great.
So if you had a really long URL and you're trying to link to it, you couldn't even put any content into the tweet. And so like tinyurl.com, I think was the first one that I ever used. And then Bitly became huge. And Bitly had a really cool feature where you could do, of course, bit.ly/whatever.
Yeah.
But you could also sign up and get your own custom domain. And that's where us nerds really started to nerd out. And like, what's the shortest, coolest? I tried so hard to get san.to for Tonga, because there was the .to domains. And somebody in Tonga owns it. And I have a recurring reminder to email them once a year and be like, hey, can I have it now? Because it still would be cool, right? san.to.
That's a cool one.
But nobody cares as much anymore, because now Twitter has it built in. Pretty much every social media thing is building it in. And it just has not been all that necessary. But when you podcast and you're trying to point people to places audibly, and you have to say, go to changelog.com/shipit/60, it's so much cool to say shipit.show/60.
Yep. That's true.
Now, we held off on this one for a while because we were trying to get shipit.fm. Which actually, you like this one better, don't you?
I do, because I like to think of this as a show. I really do.
Right. Yeah, for us, it was just consistency, because we've used FM for everything else. So every one of our other podcasts had FM. And we spent, I guess it's been a year now trying to get it. And then also trying to get ship.it, which we couldn't get either. But shipit.show is cool.
I think so too. I think it's like a good third option, which was also available. And that's what matters in this case. I mean, we're still open to getting shipit.fm. So if someone knows the person that has it, or if you're the person that has it, and you have a reasonable ask price-wise.
Yeah, we got money, but not that much money.
Exactly, yeah. We're not millionaires yet. When we will be, we can pay you more if you want, you know. Or, even better, if Shipit makes many millions, we don't mind. But for now, let's just be reasonable. Shipit.fm would be cool. Ship.it would also be cool, but it was a bit more complicated. Actually, we didn't get any replies. Yeah, we tried. We didn't get any replies. And now Shipit Show, for me, the most important thing was when you announce the new Shipit episodes in the Slack, we don't unfurl the links, which means that it's just a link and you don't know what it is. But if you look at GoTime FM or JS Party FM or even Changelog FM, you see a preview of the episode. And I really miss those because it's so easy to miss when a new episode gets announced.
They are nice. And the reason why it doesn't work without the vanity domain is because if we unfurled every changelog.com URL, it would be like the same thing over and over again. So we just permanently banned unfurls on changelog.com domain. But it's nice for the podcast episodes because they actually have a pretty nice unfurl, which shows you the album art. It shows you what's going, the title and the description. But those are unbanned on vanity domains, and Shipit for the first 57 episodes. I don't know, 58. I can't remember when we turned it on. Did not have that. And Gerhard, it was just eating you alive, man. It was just eating you alive.
Yeah, I really wanted that. Like, seriously, surely this Kaizen. Nope. Not this Kaizen. It's not Christmas yet.
Not this Kaizen. So maybe we talk very briefly about how these things work, because it sounds like there's a problem. I think I know what the problem is. You put in our notes, there's a something went wrong page. If you go to shipit.show/61, for example, once this one goes live, it's because there's no content there.
Yeah, the same thing happens for every episode.
Every 404, I think, actually.
And maybe every 404, you're right, yeah.
So I was digging into that a little bit. It's like we're serving the 404, like header response. But for some reason, we're like not serving the content correctly, like the actual template. And so that's in the app. I thought maybe it was like a way that Fastly was not doing it right, but I took Fastly out of the equation and it still happens. So I think there's just something that it used to work. I don't know what, somewhere along the line, the way we serve the 404 HTML just doesn't, like tries to download as a, like maybe the MIME type is wrong. I don't know. I have to look into it. But that's really what it is. It's not the vanity domain that's a problem. It's not Fly. It's not Fastly. It's just like the app serves the 404, but can't serve the content for a 404. So it just like tells you something went wrong.
I always thought that was an improvement that we were waiting someone from the community to do. It wasn't really an Easter egg. I mean, we knew about it for a while. At least I knew for at least 1 year. I've seen it before.
Yeah.
But I always thought that like, someone will pick up on it and will want to improve it. It's a great small improvement. It hasn't happened. So
Right.
at what point do we improve it ourselves?
Yeah, exactly. Or put a bug bounty out there or something.
Yeah. I mean, November is still far away, but that would be, I think, a nice one for November.
Oh, you mean for Hacktoberfest?
Yeah.
That's October, though.
Sorry, I'm thinking Movember. No, I'm thinking, mustache. No.
No mustache.
Yeah.
Yeah, no bounties for mustaches, but yeah, maybe we could put something out there. I mean, honestly, it's probably a 15-minute fix once I actually go into it. I just haven't, I've known about it for a while as well. I just can't be bothered sometimes. I'm like, so it's a 404. Like, you're not on a page that exists. I would much rather have a nice thing there, but now that it's on Kaizen, I'll probably fix it. Darn it.
Yeah, Kaizen development.
Yeah,
I like
Kaizen
KDD.
70.
I really
Dang
like
it.
that.
Add it to the list.
That's cool.
That's how I do most of my development.
Yeah, Kaizen driven. I love that. Me too. I try to as much as I can. So shipit.show/50 does work because that's already out. So that was the previous Kaizen.
There's a lot of cool, I pasted you a link, and maybe we can link into the code base where it does this as well. The way that vanity redirector works, there's a bunch of other cool little URLs you can use.
Ah, yes. That's a
So
good
like shipit.show/Apple will get you to the Apple Podcast URL, which is much longer. So this is like a classic shortener, /Spotify, /Android, /merch, if you want to get to our merch shop. These are just nice ways to just have it in your mind when you're like talking to a friend and you're like, how do you listen on Apple? Yeah, shipit.show/Apple. It'll get you to the right spot. And you don't have to know that. So we have like 10 or 15 of those, which are pretty cool. I think I use them quite often. And we link to them like on YouTube and in our Twitter pinned tweets and stuff. Just clean.
One URL, which reminded me of something that one of our listeners gave feedback on, is shipit.show/request, which people can use to request an episode or propose an episode. It works the same way. So this was, and I'm trying to find it, Leo R. Lundgren.
Okay.
He said, why on earth would I possibly want to create a changelog.com account just to send you guys a little tip, pointer, suggestion for an episode? There's simply no point in not letting people to come up with suggestions easily without having to go through hoops for it. So what do we think about that?
Well, I have two responses. The first one is to Leo. How did you submit this feedback?
An email.
So just write your suggestion into that email. Like I'm being spicy a little bit, but my point is there's ways to reach us. You can tweet at us. You can email us. You can be in our Slack. We are very open to communication. This is an official channel, and we get tons and tons of these requests. I mean, hundreds. And so while it's a little bit of a pain on your end to sign up and do the submission form, that's kind of on purpose to like just put a little bit of a barrier between us and requests. Just because we
How
get so
bad do
many.
you want, Leo? If you want it badly, you'll create an account. Okay. So again, still spicy. I'm continuing down the same alley, but let's try a different one. From my perspective as a show host, I really like when I see those requests in the admin area, because it allows me to, when I basically create a new episode, I can use the request that you created to generate the episode, and that helps me. The other thing that helps me, and I think it basically helps you, the ones that request the episode, is you'll get notified when the episode goes out. I'm not sure whether we notify when the status changes for a request.
Not automatically. So you can decline a request and send a message. There's like multiple ways. You can decline it silently. You can decline it with a message and let them know this didn't work out. Here's why. You can also fail it with a message, and that's like handwritten. So it's like basically a markdown based email that we send out that says this one didn't work out. We tried to make it. I just sent one of those today, actually. We had a request from 2 years ago. I was working on it. I had a yes, we had a reschedule, et cetera, et cetera. Life came up, pandemic hit. It fell by the wayside. And I finally failed it today with a message. It was like, look, we worked really hard on this. I want to do the show. It's just not working out. Maybe another time. And we can send that message back. But when you set it to accepted or you set it to scheduled and stuff, we don't want to send people a bunch of emails. Plus, it still might fall apart. So the only thing we send is if you tell them, I want to send a message, or when the show does go live, we automatically send an email at that point.
So in summary, Leo, if you want a quick suggestion, you can do it via Twitter.
Yeah.
Ship It FM, Changelog, Gerhard Lazu, all work equally well. You can also send an email, as you have, which is gerhard@changelog.com. I always read those. Or any other email that is out there for me. I mean, it will still get to me. And if you go via the website, and if you do create an account, it helps us to keep track of those. It helps us to basically manage them better. And then you will get a notification when the episode goes live, when the episode goes out as a request episode. So I like to see those like nice requested tags on them. I find that helpful. And the last one which we had, and it just shows how well I remember it, it was the Docker Swarm request. I forget who exactly requested it. I forgot the name, but it's very easy to go and see that. But that's the last one that was requested. And it's just a nice flow.
Yeah, it's really nice. And sometimes people will email in, like for the changelog specifically, and have an idea. And I'll actually say, this is a good idea. Can you go open up a request on the website? Because that way it actually sits in our queue of ideas right there in the admin with everything else. It just has a much higher likelihood of becoming real versus on Twitter or versus in email. But those are still avenues for starting a conversation. So Leo, you don't have to create an account. You can try those other ways. But that's there for reasons, both for our workflow and also just as a little bit of a bump in the road for people who would spam us otherwise. If it was just completely open, we would get hundreds a day versus now we're getting hundreds a month.
Cool. So now that we addressed that, and I'm happy how we addressed it, thank you, Jared, we can go back to talking about episode 50 and what other topics did we cover since episode 50.
Okay.
For me, the big ones were episode 51, shipit.show/51. You already know how this works, with Mark Erickson, where we talked about the clustering part and the multi-region PostgreSQL integration, which I was convinced I will do by episode 60, and it hasn't happened. It just shows reality versus plan. And this is normal. We did other things which were more important. We'll get to them in a minute, but that's the one thing what we talked about. I didn't have time to action on. Anything that you want to mention about episode 51, Jared? Anything? First of all, did you listen to it?
I did.
I know that you... Yeah, okay.
I listened to most of them. I haven't listened to 59 yet, which you're going to talk about next. I listened to 51. I enjoyed it quite a bit. I think the biggest surprise to me during that one is that the Postgres is not really managed like you kind of thought it was.
Yep.
It seems not, I wouldn't want to call it an afterthought, but it's kind of like, it was a good idea of like, well, we have these runtimes and it's just this version of one. It's just a Postgres. It's just like anything else. You have an app container. What do they call them? Containers, runtimes, pods. I
think it's like an application. I mean,
apps.
The application in like the Fly context, there's a special one like PostgreSQL where you can create a cluster, and the Fly CTL, the Fly CLI, it's slightly more integrated. You can scale them better. You have visibility into backups, things like that.
Yeah, it's kind of like it's like any other Fly app, but with special privileges, like special benefits. Right. And we were thinking more of it as like, this is our Postgres service that we're going to manage for you. Yeah. And there are some management that's going on, but it was less formal and maybe a little bit less than I was expecting and kind of hoping for. Yeah. So that's what I remember from that episode. Mm-hmm. And then I remember you giving an ode to Erlang at the end, which I very much enjoyed.
Yeah, I remember that coming out like as a special. I've seen it. That's how I know.
I put that out as a clip.
Listen to parts of it because there's a clip coming up here on Twitter.
Right.
And I know that that's something that resonated with Jared and he thought it was good enough to share. That's how that works. So related, again, this is the episode which hasn't come out yet as we record this. That is episode 59 with Ben Johnson.
Very much looking forward to that, by the way.
Oh, that was a good one. Yeah. SQLite instead of PostgreSQL. That was a great one.
I guess by the time people are listening to this, they've heard it, but I haven't heard it. So you can't really tease it for them. They're like past tense, and I haven't heard it yet. So I don't know. Just move on.
That's exactly what I'm thinking. Move on.
Okay, moving on. Moving on. Yeah.
Fair
enough.
Generating some interest for you. like trying to say, like, prepare you for it when it comes out, because I thought that was very good. But it's more like future looking. Again, I don't want to spoil the fun for everyone, but it's more future looking for us. And it's also like some important things that we would require in the context of Fly, for us to be able to use it, which is coming, but it's not there yet. So that's great. We know that we're about to ride a wave which hasn't even appeared. My favorite thing. So yeah, we can move on.
This episode is brought to you by LaunchDarkly. Fundamentally change how you deliver software, innovate faster, deploy fearlessly, and take control of your software so you can ship value to customers faster and get feedback sooner. LaunchDarkly is built for developers but empowers the entire organization. Get started for free and get a demo at launchdarkly.com. Again, launchdarkly.com.
Speaking of moving on, one thing that we definitely move from is our LKE, our Managed Kubernetes, because 30 days after the migration, I would say everything. I definitely deleted the deployment and everything that we were running on it. And one thing which I want to mention is the importance of keeping things around just in case. Yeah. So the reason why we haven't deleted it just then or shortly after is if there is a problem and we need to go back, I wanted to make sure that we have something to go back to. So I'm thinking of it as a very long blue-green thing, months. In our case, I think it was like 2 months. So if within 2 months, we realize that this plan is not working as we think it is, reality versus plan, we always have the option of going back or stopping, the plan depending on where we are. So a month before, as we were standing up Fly, we were still like running on the old one, still running on LKE, which was the current production. And after we went to Fly, we always had the option of going back. And that was like a very deliberate choice. Luckily, we didn't have to use it. Yeah. But it's one way to make sure that you always have something to fall back on. And I keep mentioning my love for running 2 things, at least 2 things. Yeah. And this is what it looks like in practice.
So how did you pick 30 days or 60 days? Because for me, always the question is like, how long do I end up running this? And then I turn into a hoarder and it's like 6 years later and I got all these services that I haven't been using for a long time, but I'm still running them just in case.
For me, it's the Kaizens. The Kaizen driven. Okay. I got reminded. Yeah. That's why like the recurrent theme is really powerful in a lot of things that I do. And the reason why I have these Kaizens is because they force us to do certain things.
So what do you say to somebody who doesn't have a cadence? Like they're not going to record a podcast once every 10 weeks.
True.
To Kaizen. How do they do it? They can't count on it. Every time we do a Kaizen.
They record it every 10 weeks.
Yeah, everybody needs a podcast.
Yeah, that's
a
the
podcast
conclusion.
Is the solution.
So to be honest, I would set myself a reminder, whatever that looks like for you. So remind yourself to do something in the future. Whatever app you use, whatever system you use, set yourself a reminder to do something.
Even if that reminder is simply to reevaluate, it doesn't mean you're necessarily going to delete it, right? But you're going to okay, after 30 days, I'm going to have this thought. Maybe it takes 30 seconds. Maybe it takes a half an hour to actually go ahead and execute on it. But remind yourself to think about it later. Is it time to delete this now? Or do I leave it? Do we want to keep it there for another 30?
Yeah.
It's usually pretty easy decision to make at the time. What's hard to make is like looking forward 6 months from now, etc.
Yeah, exactly. And I think people kind of know like when it's been long enough. So for some, it may be 7 days. For others, it may be a month. Others still may need more, like longer period. And that's okay. All those options are valid. In our case, it was arbitrary. I have to say 30 days just so happened. It was roughly 30 days. Maybe it would have been 31, 32. I can't remember exactly the time.
Sure.
But there is a transition period which starts whenever the new idea starts, and you still have to run your old system or your current system until you're migrated onto the new one. But when you're migrated, your work isn't finished. The migration is done in that you're running on the new system,
right?
But the old system is still around because you want to give yourself a plan B if things go south. And it has happened for us. I mean, I'm not going to go into details, but episode 50, we were delayed by a week, I think, or 2 weeks, something like that. So in my case, I kept it around just in case we may need to go back, just in case we discover something that we didn't know until we switched across. And for me, after 30 days, it was just a reminder, and because I was thinking about the Kaizen and like what to do next. And this is actually linked to our TLS certs. So we had Cert Manager running in LKE, and Cert Manager was syncing, actually, first of all, renewing the certificate for the wildcard one for changelog.com. But also we had, I want to say the job. It was actually was it the job? Yes, it was the job, which was keeping it in sync with Fastly. So I knew that I had to migrate the certificate somewhere. And what I did, I just delegated the management to Fastly for the wildcard changelog.com certificate. There's a limitation in that only one provider can manage the wildcard certificate, because in DNS you end up creating CNAME records and you can't have multiple. You can only have one. So there's that limit. We would have preferred text records, but there you go. It's just a limitation of how that's implemented. So we cannot use Cert Manager or CertBot and Fastly. We could only have one. So in our case, we had Cert Manager because we were managing all our certificates in LKE using Cert Manager for all the vanity domains. But when we migrated to Fly, the easiest thing was to let Fly manage the certificates for the vanity domains. So Ship It Show, for example, to configure it was super easy, really, really easy. And the wildcard ones, I can't remember why we don't do it. Oh, yes. We don't do it. You have to upload it, right? With Fly, exactly, because something needs to upload it. So then we have to manage that.
Fastly has to have it, and Fly has to have it if it's going to be managed by Fly.
Yep.
Whereas if Fastly just manages it, Fly doesn't care about it for the application to run.
Exactly.
So we have star.changelog.com is on Fastly, and everything else we do, which is mostly the vanity domains, is on Fly in terms of DNS, or not in terms of DNS, in terms of certs.
Yeah, correct.
That's not too bad. I mean, it's not like super clean, but it's not super dirty either.
The thing which we're missing more is documenting that, like to basically capture that. And this goes back to episode 44.
Kelsey would be so upset with you.
I know.
The documentation front.
I'm sorry, Kelsey. I'm still working on that. I want to show you my list. I know that you wouldn't care, but it's there. Trust me.
Here's a workaround. All these Kaizen episodes, we transcribe the entire conversation. So in a way, you just documented it right now.
True. That's true. But it's spread across like 40 different,
Well, you didn't say the documentation needed to be good. You just said you got to document it, right?
That's true.
So we're working on it.
Yeah, you're right.
Just speak it out loud and it documents itself. It's self-documenting podcasts.
I like that. So I just need to record myself waffling for like 2 hours and then you have all of it.
So once again, the solution is everybody needs a podcast. Their documentation needs would be taken care of.
We just keep coming back. I mean, only if we didn't own a podcast and a podcast network.
Right.
Yeah. And you need to run that podcast on our infrastructure. That's the other requirement.
That's right. So you talked about having two things hanging around and how long it's going to stay that way. And I do tend to be the cut it off too early type more so. And I have regretted that in the past, but I'm somewhat of a purger. I like to purge. I don't like things that infinitely grow, such as blockchains and twitter.com, because the tweets just keep coming. Like you're never going to get to the end. It's just.
What about podcast episodes? Do you like those to keep growing?
No, they need to stop at some point.
Where do we reset the ship it number?
Right.
With some exceptions. This is what.
Yes. Yeah, podcasts should just always keep going. You have two directories, 2021, 2022, and there's like a 2022.fly.
Yes.
And then there's like others junk going on. And I'm just wondering. Okay. One man's treasure, it's another man's trash, or I can't remember how that saying goes. But for me, the only reason why this bugs me is because I need to like copy the fly.toml into the root directory unless I want to have like another tmux session in the subdirectory. And I don't want another tmux session. So I'm wondering why we need to have those years anymore. I feel like we're kind of beyond that. I'm just curious, when is that whole thing going to get cleaned up?
I see. Okay. That's a great question, Jared. I'm so glad that you joined this episode.
Very cozy in here. It's getting very cozy.
Right. So yeah, because we're talking about junk, so you have to, right? There's no way to talk about it without getting cozy.
Oh my.
Right. So Where's Adam? I think
tag
we need
back
him
on
now.
this one. Yeah.
I think Adam is talking out loud and he doesn't realize he's not part of the podcast as he's listening to this.
It's getting hot in here.
So 2021, there's one thing that we still need there. So while I did delete the infrastructure, the directory is still there, how we did the config, I just found myself referencing something for James Haar. So James Haar was following up on episode 58, the one where we talk about how to keep a secret with Rosemary and Rob, the Vault episode. And I gave him an example in the 2021 directory of how we integrate LastPass, secrets in LastPass with Kubernetes, or how we used to do that. So it was helpful for that reference.
Gotcha.
But I could have done it in a number of ways. I didn't have to keep it around. So in the 2021 directory, the most important thing is actually our CI integration. So we're running Dagger, that runs locally, and it also runs in GitHub Actions. And if you remember, we did that to migrate from Circle CI.
Right.
That was episode 33. So that's when that happened. So the only config that we have is the Dagger config, which describes everything that needs to happen in our CI. That config is pinned to Dagger version 0.1.0. Since Dagger 0.2.0 came out, and that changes a couple of things. I didn't have time to rewrite the config from 0.1 to 0.2. I should have, but there were other things which kept trumping it. So that's the most important thing that would need to move from 2021 from that directory. 2022 was for the new Kubernetes cluster, which, as you remember, that's the one that we had around when we did the migration.
Right.
We thought we'd go to Fly. We couldn't go to Fly. Episode 50 has all the details. We end up on this new 2022 Kubernetes cluster. So we could delete that directory. We don't need it anymore. But what we do need is the 2022 Fly. In that directory contains all the config for the Fly setup. The reason why I use the year, because if you remember, every year we used to upgrade those. We used to go to another version.
Legacy. It's legacy.
Exactly. Yeah.
Fair enough.
And then we eventually would use to delete them. So I think that we will be able to delete the 2021 as soon as I migrate Dagger. By the way, 2022 Fly is already using the new Dagger, and I tried to configure it to use with Fly. But as I was doing the migration to Fly, I realized that there's quite a few things which I need to figure out, and I had to separate the work that I had to do on Dagger versus the work that I had to do for this migration. So at some point I said, okay, what's more important? So I refocused all my energy and effort on the migration, and I left the Dagger integration with Fly secondary. So the Dagger in the 2022 Fly is already at 0.2. So what that means is that two are incompatible. So until that migration happens, I can't change it. Another thing which happened in the 2022 Fly directory, I've added the Docker engine integration. So this is a nice segue into pull request 416, where I explain why we had to deploy and use a Docker engine on fly.io.
So this is the one where we had us connecting to a Tailscale that you were running at your house or in some...
Exactly. It's right there.
Yes, and we had...
So I have a fanless... Yeah, I'll put a picture. I have a fanless NixOS bare metal server. There's no
Fancy.
fans, not even in the PSU. I mean, I'm
No
waiting
fans.
to do an episode on that. Yeah, no fans.
Is there a
whatsoever.
heatsink on the CPU? Or
Yes.
just
Yeah.
not? I thought you were going super, no cooling, no cooling.
Knock to our PSU. Although that's actually what makes me hot in this room.
Here, I thought it was all of our cozy
Yeah.
talk.
Yeah. It's that fanless server. So anyways. So it was connecting via Tailscale to that host. The problem with Tailscale is that when you generate an auth key for the GitHub Actions runners, the maximum TTL is 90 days.
Oh yeah, this one bit me. I was trying to deploy some
A couple of
stuff.
times. Go on.
Yeah.
Tell us
And
about
I
it.
had to go, Gerhard. Well, I'll tell you what happened. It wouldn't deploy because Tailscale couldn't log in or something, or couldn't connect. I don't know. It would always get failed. It would fail on the Tailscale, and you would see some sort of either TLS or SSL or who knows, some sort of error right there. And I said, Gerhard, I know this is running your house. Help me.
Yeah, fix it. Exactly.
Yeah, fix it.
That was a problem.
I'm coming over.
Yeah. So that was that thing. If I knew that you were coming over, I wouldn't have fixed it to force you to come over. Not that you would have known how to fix it, by the way, because there was 2 other issues. So let me tell you about the other 2 issues.
Okay, there's 2 others.
So there is a Docker engine running on that host. It's a bare metal host, so very beefy, very fast. It has an amazing SSD, an NVMe one, NVMe Samsung 980, super fast, 64 gigs of DDR4, and a Ryzen 3, 16 cores, I think, or 12 cores. I can't remember, one or the other. Anyways, so it's really fast. The reason why we do that is because right now, and this is something which we're fixing in Dagger, the caching doesn't work for volumes. Out of the box, it doesn't work. What that means is that in our application, we compile a lot of dependencies in our Phoenix application. So to compile those dependencies, if you don't have a cache so that you can mount all the compiled ones, it would take 5 minutes easy, maybe even more, because we know that the GitHub runners, they only have 2 CPUs by default, so they're really not that beefy. So you want a Docker engine that is persistent across runs. When you start mounting volumes in GitHub Actions, if you've done it, you will notice there's all sorts of issues every now and then. So your CI isn't as stable and reliable because GitHub Actions are meant to be the runners, they're meant to be ephemeral. And if you have state, to recreate that state, to get it back from the cache, to restore it, it can be slow. Sometimes things fail because it's a distributed system and sometimes it fails. And then your CI becomes less reliable. So the best thing to do is to have somewhere a runner that you can trust, which is not ephemeral. It will only work for your CI. And in this case, it's not the runner, it's actually Docker engine, the Docker engine itself. But this Docker engine is running in Fly as a Fly application. Thank you, Kurt, for the starter. I even mentioned it in pull request 416. So in our 2021 Fly directory, we have the config that we use to deploy the Docker engine on Fly. So now, whenever GitHub Actions runs using Dagger, it connects to this Fly engine. To this Docker engine running on Fly. So you get the caching, you get the volume, you get all that stuff. So it's just as fast. The difference is that it's using WireGuard to connect to your Fly app. And by the way, if you're looking at the WireGuard GitHub action in the marketplace, that one didn't work for me. So I had to basically follow the Fly.io instructions on how to connect the GitHub Actions runner to the Docker engine, which is running on Fly. And that worked. And we are using that for our app. So you can see that.
I can see that. Looks like we have a dedicated CPU 4X with 50 gigabytes of storage running there.
Yeah, exactly. And that's for the caching and everything. And there's something really cool. There's this really cool, again, we are mentioning all these things because I'm excited about them. And I haven't tried it out yet, but I can hardly wait to try it out. So Fly introduced machines which can spin up in milliseconds. So imagine VMs that start really, really fast. So if you think about our Docker engine, the one that's there for the CI, we're using it less than 1% of the time. So 99% of the time it's running, it's using those
for no reason.
For no reason, exactly.
Should we set up a SETI at home or?
We could do. Or a Bitcoin miner. We could. It's there. We're paying for it. But, to be honest, the reason why this is exciting is because we can spin up on demand and we can have maybe more than 4 CPUs. We only chose 4 CPUs because of the cost. It just hits like the balance nice. But if we could use 16 CPUs on demand, that would be a lot better. And with Fly machines, we can because they spin up so quickly. You don't wait minutes for it to come up.
Like really that quickly? What about the disk? Is it like connected? Like you just connect it to some sort of...
There's a blog article that says 250 milliseconds. If it takes more than that, I think we should complain to Kurt. That's what I think we should do.
Okay, cool.
Again, I haven't tried it out, but I really do want to. I think that's like an improvement to make on this. The first improvement was to move it off my server because as I mentioned, the Tailscale key would expire. I would need to manually renew it. Yeah. There was the other issue because I'm using it for my development. It's Linux based, so it's NixOS. So when I'm running like my development version of the Dagger CLI, that may need a...
Wait, are you telling me this is your dev box?
Yes. It doubles up as my
dev box was part of our critical infrastructure for months.
well, critical. I mean, if it doesn't work for me, it's more important. Like, it's something that basically I use it often. So by DevBox, it's actually 3 hosts. Okay, I have an iMac Pro, so it depends on the day.
So you moved on from have 2 of everything. You want to have 3 of these.
3 of these, exactly. I have a
Yeah,
MacBook
3
Pro
is better than
1
2.
Max and like the Nix one. Exactly. Yeah. And it's running a bunch of other things. The point being that sometimes when I would develop, so I don't run Docker on my Mac.
Too slow.
Yeah, that's basically it. The TLDR is too slow.
That's why I didn't do it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Too
I
slow.
know. And even now, it's still too slow, especially networking. Anyways, really weird because of how it works with the virtualization on macOS. So Docker and Linux all the way, but not anywhere else. I didn't even try it on Windows, but I imagine it's just as bad, if not worse. Anyways, so because Dagger manages its own build kit, I was constantly upgrading the build kit that Dagger 0.1 was using to the latest version as I was developing Dagger. And whenever the CI would run, it would downgrade it and I would upgrade it. And it was like this like constant battle of, well, which version should you run? Okay, you can configure it. You can specify like a new thing. I haven't. That was the other thing which bit me. But again, the fix was so quick that by the time you realized it was an issue, I already fixed it. And because I was using it, so again, it's an issue that was happening, but you weren't aware of it because I would always fix it.
Now, are we still vendoring Dagger in our source code?
We're not vendoring Dagger as the packages. This is Dagger packages specific.
The Dagger
to that version.
packages. Is that common practice? Or is that because we're on edge or, bleeding?
We haven't basically figured this problem out yet in Dagger, but right now, any packages, any Dagger package that you use, you're supposed to basically link them to the Dagger version, the Dagger CLI version, and you do that by running Dagger project update. And then anything that you're running locally, so it doesn't have like a package management like Go or Python or some other language.
Isn't this built in Go?
Dagger is built in Go, yes.
Can't you just universal binary that thing? I guess there's too many packages. You wouldn't want to throw them all in there.
So how about we put a pin in this? Because I wouldn't want to use the rest of our time to talk about this. It's something which I'm very passionate about. And this is where I'm stopping myself, to go too far.
I'll stop prodding.
So there was the build kit issue. And the other issue, and this is something that was hitting, this was like the most recent issue, where I had a PostgreSQL container binding on the same port, on the same TCP port, and then the changelog test PostgreSQL container was failing to start. So while BuildKit was okay, the tailscale key was okay, there was a collision on the TCP port. So CI couldn't run. And that was like basically the last thing for me, like the straw that broke Gerhard's mind. And he said, table flip, I'm fixing this. So that's why I fixed the Docker engine. I migrated
once and for all.
I hope so.
For now and for a few people.
Yeah, for now, at least for the next 2.5 months, this is okay.
Well, while it's on my mind, as we're in this kind of headspace, I want to say one more thing I'm excited about with Fly is that I was able to, via Fly proxy, just proxy the Postgres connection. We talked about that, that's how we're doing backups, which I don't think is, they're doing them as well. We just don't have much visibility into that. But if you want an ad hoc backup, you just connect with Fly proxy and you connect to PSQL directly. That feels a little weird to me, but what's great about that is now I can actually just use it like it's my database. I don't do that when I'm developing.
Don't do
but
that.
Every once, no, I don't do it.
Don't do that.
But I could.
You could, but
the possibility is there, and it's tantalizing. But what I can do is I can connect Postico, which is my favorite little Postgres UI, query UI, directly to production. Because every once in a while, you just got to munge a little bit of data and fix a thing. Yeah. And with Kubernetes, I could never get through whatever layers there were in order to get that done. And I think the option was like, let's not expose it publicly to the world. But this is just all set up and working. Yeah. And so I just proxy that sucker, connect Postico to production. I have this big red background versus green to know, hey, be careful, you're in production. But I can just run arbitrary queries against our production database.
Okay. So
and that's a best practice, isn't it?
We need to take you through a certification program, which will be I develop in production. That's the end result.
There should be a cert for that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, A+. Isn't that what A+ gets you?
I fly planes for real. I don't just work.
You should have like a 2-button commit on that thing, where like you and I had to both hit the button at the same time to run the query.
That was Adam's idea. I still remember it from deleting DNS records. Remember?
Oh,
That's what he said.
That's right. Let's bring it back.
You're still here. You're still here.
Yep.
You're still here.
Here in spirit. Okay, so I just wanted to get that in there while I was thinking of it because you were talking about connecting things to different places. Yeah. Okay, so we have pull request 416. Obviously, there's additional stuff to do there eventually, but good to go. Specifically, we would like to spin it up and spin it down on demand if that works. It'd be sweet.
That's right, using fly machines. That's right.
Yeah, fly machines. Cool.
But the thing that I want to go back to is the improvement which I mentioned in episode 50. And I think you realized why we can't run more than one instance of the changelog app. And right now it's that like lack of clustering. So looking at the fly blog, the fly docs, how to integrate that looks really, really simple, but I haven't done it yet. So I would really want to do that. I mentioned 2.5 months ago I'll do it. Maybe now I'll do it. I don't know. We'll see. It's summer. Lots of holidays coming up, but still I would like to do that.
Yeah. That's something I think also I could maybe take a crack at, but I also have other things which I'm working on in the application space that are probably higher priority than that, which we'd love to have ready for episode 70, which we haven't teased at all yet, but maybe now we take an opportunity to say we are working with our friend Lars Vickman on chapter support for our podcast episodes, and it's in progress. No promises. We would love to have it by 70. And if we do have it by 70, we'll talk through all the details, hopefully get Lars on the show and make a big deal out of it. But that's what I've been focusing my efforts on. Probably won't get around to this, but I think it is. I read that doc and I was like, I could probably do this as well in the app to get clustering set up. So it does look pretty straightforward. I think it'd be a good step for us to do.
Oh, yes.
This episode is brought to you by our friends at Retool. Retool helps teams focus on product development and customer value, not building and maintaining internal tools. It's a low-code platform built specifically for developers. No more UI libraries, no more hacking together data sources, and no more worrying about access controls. Start shipping internal apps that move your business forward in minutes with basically zero uptime, reliability, or maintenance burden on your team. Some of the best teams out there trust Retool: Brex, Coinbase, Plaid, DoorDash, Legal Genius, Amazon, Allbirds, Peloton, and so many more. The developers at these teams trust Retool as their platform to build their internal tools, and that means you can too. It's free to try, so head to retool.com/changelog. Again, retool.com/changelog. And by our friends at Acuity, a new platform that brings fully managed Argo CD and enterprise services to the cloud or on-premise. And I'm here with two of the co-founders from Acuity, Jesse Suin and Alexander Matyusenchev. So the Acuity platform is in beta right now. You guys have some big ideas you're executing on around Argo CD, managed Argo CD, Kubernetes native application delivery, and the power of GitOps. Help me understand the what and the why of what you're doing right now.
So we started Acuity because we saw what was happening in the Kubernetes community, the challenges that people were facing about developer experience. And having run Argo CD for Intuit for a couple of years, we knew it took like a small team to build this and scale it and provide a performant solution for the developers. And so at Acuity, in the Acuity platform, what we're trying to do is, the first thing we're trying to do is actually provide Argo CD as a fully managed solution to our users. But that is just actually the start of things. And we actually want to take the next steps on improving the whole GitOps and developer experience and providing new tools and ecosystems around Argo and the Argo project.
Yeah, that's right, JC. So Argo CD is just the beginning, but every company eventually needs way more tools integrated into the DevOps platform. And that's what we're hoping to deliver with Acuity platform. So we're hoping to provide a great user interface that enable developers to achieve what they need in a matter of just a few clicks. But we also want to make Argo CD enterprise ready. What that means is our customers would get audit and insightful analytics out of the box without configuring anything. That's what we did at Intuit, and we learned that it was not so easy to do. And that's what we're hoping to solve for multiple organizations.
Very cool. Thank you, Jesse. Thank you, Alex. Again, listeners, this is a closed beta. Check it out. Acuity.io/changelog. Head there and see what this platform is all about. Again, Acuity.io/changelog. Links are in the show notes.
Just to continue with the teasing theme, episode 61, when it comes out, which is right after this one, we are talking to John and Jason from Transistor FM. And I mentioned this to them, and they were excited to find out more. Now, they're running Ruby on Rails. We're running Elixir in the context of this library, but they were curious to see how we do it. And because they use FFmpeg extensively for other purposes. I was saying that we're using FFmpeg today just for that.
So they would also have to ditch FFmpeg.
I think the bigger problem with Ruby on Rails.
I would expect there to already be tooling in Ruby for this. It would just be, slow in memory, consumptive. Is consumptive a word? I would expect there to be some tools for this in Ruby land.
Memory hungry.
I mean, not Ruby in general, but at this particular style task, I think it might be. Because these are large files that you're reading into memory and modifying. I don't know, Lars can speak better to it, but now we're getting too far into the weeds on it. Yeah, that's cool. Big fan of Transistor and excited for that episode. And yeah, hopefully what we do can at least be looked at by them and integrated, because we are going to be editing our chapters in the CMS and having it syndicated into the MP3 files and into the podcast feeds themselves, because the new podcasting spec has chapters built into it. And so you don't have to put them in your MP3, you can put them in your feed. And so we're going to do both. And then we can also have them on the website on the episode page as well for easy clicking around too. So that's the coolest part about it. But anyways, now I'm revealing too much.
Yeah, no, that's all cool stuff. I mean, all that's coming. I think we touched up on it in one of the Kaizens before, where we talked about
why we don't.
Might have been 40.
Yeah,
exactly. Where we talked about block storage and local volumes. And this came up in the context of some of the issues that you had to overcome to migrate from a local volume to object storage, to S3 for assets, for MP3s.
Yep, and now everything's out of the way, and we are getting the one last thing blocking us from good chapter support. We're getting that taken care of, and then we will be good to go.
That would be so cool, because I find myself looking for specific parts of episodes that I want to link to. If there were chapters, it would be much easier to find them. And especially linking them to the transcripts. So if I know which chapter is where, it would be much easier for me to find the portion of the MP3 file where I want to link to. That's really cool. And if you add player support, now you're just blowing my mind.
Not all by 70, but these are all things we want to do.
That's okay. That's why, again, another reason why you want to do those improvements regularly and just release them bit by bit.
Small steps.
Exactly. For us, small steps means 2.5 months, but it still shows that with life happening, sometimes, just other things become more important and you just handle them. But we are very conscious about what is happening, right? Because it's always in our minds. We always check the previous episodes, what we said we will do versus what we did and what we still want to do. So speaking of that, one thing which I still want to do is to figure out clustering. So I don't know whether we end up pairing for an hour, what it looks like, but I'm very keen by the next Kaizen to have a cluster of changelog apps running, because I really want to have one running in London, multi-regions, one running in Virginia. That's the one in Omaha. I don't think they have one, but that would be nice. So
Ohio, I bet, is probably the closest thing to me.
Yeah, Ohio. So I don't know whether they still have that region
Looks like they have Chicago, Illinois. ORD is a fly region. That one's very close to me.
Okay.
So one there, one in Singapore, one in Sydney, one in Toronto. Where else? I mean, ones were clustered, right? One in India. We're huge in Germany. Probably would put one there.
I think we should put one on every continent, to be honest. And we can use Honeycomb to see which data centers get the most traffic, which fly data centers have the most traffic. And then based on that, we can put one in each region. And this is like a small step towards maybe one day using SQLite. I mean, that's a crazy idea.
Yeah, because now we just embed our database at each region, all right, there with the app, and let Lightstream do its deal or whatever they're cooking up next over there.
Yeah, pretty much. But I mean, for now, we can just basically have dynamic requests responding much quicker. One thing which I've noticed today is you remember those vanity domains and the redirects which we have, like ship it show, for example. So that one used to take more than 200 milliseconds for me when the request had to travel from the UK, from London, all the way to Virginia and back. But now they only take 23 milliseconds. And the reason why they take so little is because there's a fly proxy. And fly proxy is distributed. So I don't know exactly what magic that is, because I know that the speed of light would take more than 23 milliseconds if it had to go to Virginia today, because that's the only place where we currently have our changelog app instance running. So it's not hitting the app, it's hitting the proxy. And because
the
it's
proxy
hitting the proxy,
just caching maybe?
Must do. Because otherwise I can't explain
how else would it know the answer?
How else exactly is it that fast? Because it must hit the app. And I can see the fly IO IP address. And now I didn't run an MTR to see where it is. 16 milliseconds, somewhere in London, ntt.net. And then it's hitting the internal network. And then all I'm getting this IP. So that's the firewall basically. So it's my IP cw.net. I'm not sure who runs that. LNS, LTW, but it's all london12.uk.bbg.gin.ntt.net. So that is the entry point to the data center, wherever this is running. Then there's 3 more hops, which is through the actual data center, and eventually it hits the proxy IP address. And it's 6651.126.203. Maybe that's one for Kurt. But anyways, it was really cool to see those redirects working so quickly, because if you remember, we were saying at some point, why don't we set up those redirects on the CDN so they respond quicker?
Right.
You don't have to do that anymore. Isn't it amazing? An improvement that you don't make, and then you just find out that it just happened. That's the best one.
Procrastinating for the win, just sit around and let somebody else figure it out by happenstance. What else should we not do? What else should we strategically not do so that other people get it done for us? Maybe that 404
I think
thing.
we need to ask Kurt. Hey, Kurt, what's your roadmap? Tell us what's coming. But totally. Seriously, like the whole live stream thing, the way Ben talks about it, again, I'm just teasing what's coming in. Actually, no, what came? Sorry, episode 59. So
you're
that's
teasing me, but you're not teasing our listener who already
exactly.
listened.
So you already know, what we talked about. He's talking about how there will be a special directory in your Fly deployment, in your Fly app. And if you use that directory, it will automatically be synchronized. If you have SQLite there, it will automatically be synchronized with the other instances. So at least that's the thinking. How it will work in practice, we'll see. But if you put your SQLite in that directory, it will automatically be synchronized with your other apps or your other app instances running on Fly. Now that's really cool.
With zero work to do that.
There you go. No Lightstream integration. You don't have to run the process. You don't have to configure it.
Just put it here, and we're going to replicate it around the world to everywhere else your app exists.
Exactly.
Sign me up, except we have a few Postgres-specific features that we're using, but we would address those things as time allows. But very cool. Very cool.
Yeah, I can see 2023 starting as an experiment, and we see, how far it goes. But this is an interesting idea. Mm-hmm. And then it doesn't matter that your database is not managed. Do you even need it to be managed?
It's kind of managed.
There you go. It's your application.
It kind of just exists everywhere all at once. I mean, talk about backups.
Now that's really cool.
Yeah, it's cool. You still want snapshots, though, because you could screw something up and want to go back. Right.
Feature request.
Get them in early.
Yeah, exactly.
That's all it is. It's a feature request. Love it.
Yeah. And we won't be the only ones, I'm sure of it. Anyways.
Oh, no. So just the first thing you think of.
So clustering, I think that's going to be a big deal. We'll see how far we can push PostgreSQL. I know that Adam was mentioning about crunchy data. using their managed PostgreSQL.
Mhm.
That's an interesting idea. I'd like to try it out. But again, let's see where it fits with everything else. SQLite, I'm very excited about that, especially with Lightstream. It wasn't even an option until Ben joined Fly. See, that's how things happen. We migrated to Fly, Ben joined Fly, and then amazing things are being discussed. And we'll see how far it gets, but I'm excited. The other thing which is on my mind, and this is episode 58, I blame Rosemary and Rob. No, I blame who recommended it. No, someone else that recommended that episode, and I forgot. Let me check it out. Shipit.show58. So easy. Seriously, I love it. Just that, like it's just saving me from typing more.
It's nice.
Let's see, do we have, we don't have the transcript. We don't have the transcript.
Yeah, it just came out.
Thomas Eckert. Thank you, Thomas Eckert.
Oh yeah, Thomas.
For the intro. Yeah, Thomas did the intro. So thank you, Thomas, for the intro. And we had some amazing comments. This is actually the episode which had the most comments in the Shipit Slack channel.
That's because everybody has opinions on how to do secrets.
Exactly. So we have to take a popular subject,
right?
Share an unpopular or unconventional approach, and let the comments come in. That's how we do it. I've been doing it wrong all along.
Yeah, magic.
So Michael, he's a Michael Vlasman. He's a guest for episode 56. We had him on DevOps teams with shared responsibilities. He mentioned that he's using Seal Secrets, but a lot of the statements that we make in that episode, in episode 58, he agrees with them. You can see it in Slack. James Haar, he was asking how we do the LastPass integration with Kubernetes. So I referenced the link. It's there. But the one which was really interesting is Owen Valentine. Thank you very much for sharing the link, which shows HashiCorp Vault. So HashiCorp Vault plugin that integrates with 1Password. That was interesting. So 1Password is not too dissimilar from LastPass. By the way, Omri Gabai, he had an amazing input. People store application secrets in LastPass. Yes, we do.
They do.
For years. It works. Kind of. Mine is like a few small issues.
Yeah.
So if you were to migrate to 1Password, I mean, we would still need to have a password store for Vault. So where will they be persisted? And we can use like various integrations, but 1Password is one of them. 1Password, do you use 1Password, Jared?
Adam does. I do not. He's trying to get me on 1Password team or whatever their pro or business, or I don't know what their plan is called. And I'm open to it, but I was always like, I'm spread across so many at this point. Why do I want to add yet another? But if we're going to consolidate, I'm open to that.
Well, one thing which I haven't shared, that I've been experimenting with 1Password for about 3 to 4 months now. So I switched from LastPass to 1Password. I still have LastPass around, but I'm using it less and less. And I know that 1Password works really well. So maybe we can take this opportunity to consolidate on 1Password, move everything across, and with HashiCorp Vault, do that integration. So we can have the best of all worlds. We can have the LastPass CLI locally. We can have the browser extension. We can have the HashiCorp Vault integration for the application. That would be really cool.
Did you say LastPass CLI or did you mean 1Password CLI?
I meant 1Password CLI.
Okay, because you
That's what
confused me there. Okay. So they have a CLI just like LastPass does.
They do.
So you can have the best of all worlds.
Exactly.
1Password CLI, HashiCorp Vault.
Yep. With the integration to LastPass with the integration to one. I have to stop doing that. HashiCorp Vault with integration to 1Password Connect. Yes.
And then we can share passwords amongst ourselves. You can also have your personal 1Password stuff. It's like one big, happy,
sounds good.
Secure family.
It sounds too good. We need to try it out.
Okay. I'm open to that.
I think that's cool. I'm very excited about that. And like, not to mention, I already use it. So the more difficult question is, which plan do we add people on? And I think realistically, we'll join multiple plans, right? So I think if Adam has his, we may join that, especially if Changelog has one. And then we can store those secrets there.
Yeah, we would have a changelog plan of some kind. And if you can be multiples, then easy.
This is an action item for Adam. If this is a retro, this is an action item for Adam. Adam, you're listening, right?
Right.
Add myself and Jared to that plan so we can start using it. That would be really cool.
All right. Anything else?
Well, was there enough laughter? What do you think?
Should we work in a little bit more laughter before we go?
Maybe.
I got a few laughs.
I don't know. It depends. It's going to be funny enough. I don't know.
Well, it's tough to just demand more laughter right here at the end. But if you have any dad jokes or dirty jokes. It sounds like more your style. Maybe you could squeeze one in here.
Noah told me a good joke, and he said, "Is that a dad joke?" And I said, "Yes, it's a dad joke," but I forgot the joke. So hang on, I have to ask Noah.
Okay.
Ask him, "Hey Noah, what was the joke?" I forgot that. I mean, this is actually a question for you, for the listener. Do you think there were enough jokes? How do we improve the Kaizen?
How many jokes per Kaizen are you expecting? Like, what would be your threshold for happiness and then pure joy?
And the ratio to technical content. Like, was there enough technical content? And how much do you miss Adam? Because if you don't miss him, I think this is the new format.
It's a little much more efficient.
Yeah. See, that's how you end up with Boaty McBoatface. He asks the people what they want.
Boaty McBoatface. Oh, nice. That's right. All right, people, let us know.
Any last important takeaways other than happy 4th of July?
Ship.show.
Ship.show. That's a great one. I love that. Let's end on that. Ship.show. Never show. Never. Okay.
Never. How dare you even bring that up again?
No. It's funny, right? We wanted more jokes.
That's true.
Yeah. Okay. So here's the crazy idea. If someone registers show and they just redirect to this, I hope that doesn't happen.
Why are you giving them ideas? You're like teaching people how to troll us. This is not the way it's supposed to work.
All right. I think it's a great place to stop. On that bombshell, as someone famous that I very much like and admire, it's time to end. See you in 2.5 months, everyone. Have a great one. Keep Kaizening. See you all.
Kaizen. See ya.
Thank you for tuning into another episode of Ship It. Check out our other podcasts for developers at changelog.com/master. You can connect with like-minded developers via changelog.com/community. Thank you, Fastly, for the worldwide low-latency changelog.com. Our listeners love those blazing fast MP3s. Your beats are awesome, Breakmaster Cylinder. That's it for this week. See you all next week. Speaking of next week, we are talking with John Buddha and Jason Pearl about the ops and infrastructure behind Transistor.fm, a platform for publishing podcasts. The TLDR is that simple is best. Tune in next week for more.